Okay, welcome back to video day 23, video management mindset and microbes. Management tip today is around weaning, general principles. Huge. This is focused on kind of seasonal systems as we go post weaning to grass. Some ideas. I state ideas. Farms are different. Get local, get your nutritional expertise in to make decisions. But what do we need to be thinking about? Well, when we think about weaning and the period of time we're doing it over, I notice some trends. Okay, we're trying to develop the rumen, we're trying to develop the calf, a ruminant animal at weaning time. So we have our milk curve and we see a drop off in milk while we develop the rumen. What I'm noticing a big trend on is the dropping off of milk, that we're doing it more gradually. If we're crashing milk, taking milk out in a short period over 7 to 10 days, that's asking the rumen to do a lot. So I think the research and data is looking at that 2 to 3 week step down period. The more milk you feed, the longer that weaning process. Again, could be wrong, just a trend. I think people are feeding more milk and getting more comfortable with a longer weaning period. You can't really do a short weaning period with more milk. You're getting huge value, as I've talked about in other videos, from a metabolic health perspective, immunity on milk. But let's think about the rumen developing. So the rumen is a fermentation vat. It becomes the important digestive organ for our ruminant animals as they post weaning. So a young rumen, we want concentrate intake, we want good starch intake, because it's the starch that actually develops these volatile fatty acids, which develop the lining of the ruminal papillae. These are these finger-like processes. So starch is really important. So early on, day 3, day 5, adding a bit of palatable. So the big thing with starch early on is we want intake. So it doesn't have to be massive volumes for the first couple of weeks, but fresh feed intake every day that's highly palatable with the right amount of starches. When we think about that rumen developing, then we talk about fiber as weaning time. As that 5 to 6 week period, calves will be picking straw. And that fibre is doing something different. It's developing rumen function. It's buffering the rumen. The microbes are beginning to start working it. It's increasing saliva production. So it's a bit like starches. If you look at the rumen like an airplane, starch becomes the engine, but the wings are the fibre. Maybe a bad analogy. But ultimately, fibre becomes very important as we go along. Interestingly, when we come closer to weaning, we have to get, and again, this is farm by farm, starch concentrations and fibre concentrations right. People are talking, and I don't know whether it's right or wrong, on 2 different types of feed, early and late weaning in relation to starch and protein for calves. Maybe that's too fine a detail, but ultimately we want a smooth weaning time. And we want to develop rumen. So when we think about concentrate intakes, we were talking previously about a kilo per head per day, but my target is 2 kilos per head, or at least 1.5 kilos as a group average for your weaning. You obviously want a double birth weight, but look at the calves. What are the calves doing? Are they lying? Are they ruminating? All signs that they're active. The dung, what does the dung look like? Is it consistent? Because we've actually got quite good at calf health management here. There is challenges, but the next challenge we need to refine is weaning, not crashing the rumen. But I think those calf intakes of 2 kilos of concentrates with good fibre. Here's a shout out for hay. There's a really healthy debate going on about the use of quality hay as the fibre source in seasonal grazing systems. Why is that interesting? Well, straw is something we all know that calves will pick and use, and there's fibre that can develop a rumen. But when we're going out to grass post-weaning, straw is not a forage, whereas hay is. So is hay the forgotten hero of the story when it comes to calf health? I think it needs more research, but it's interesting. The story is ever expanding. That hay, good quality hay, is probably more adaptive to the type of microbiome, ruminal microbes you want post-weaning at grass, because hay is a forage. Interesting area to think about, but ultimately we want good quality forage going in, the right amount of concentrates that we'll set our target at, and a healthy rumen, and that weaning period is really key. So the trends I notice is more milk, longer weaning. But I'll cover mindset tip today on if you're working, looking at the calves, and I suppose there'll be a lot of emphasis. We'll cover it again, post-weaning issues like summer scar syndrome. In my opinion, poor weaning can play a part. So if we poor intakes and poor developed rumens, it may be contributing, but there is so many other factors when we look at the adaptation of young ruminants to fresh grass that causes issues even with good weaning. But certainly where we've poor weaning and we've calves in the group that haven't fully developed their rumens, they're real problems when they get out to grass. Okay, that's a whirlwind tour of some weaning concepts. Mindset tip today, and it holds true right throughout all the videos. I get as much enjoyment out of thinking about these videos for myself, even if nobody listens. But if it's not broken, don't fix it. So if you're doing weaning well, you don't need to be making adjustments. If you're struggling, we need to look at it. If you're putting up more milk, you have to think about longer weaning. You've got to look at the calves, because if we can get weaning and post-weaning right, it begins the next stage of our animals' development, whether beef or heifers. Microbes tip today, one thing we're seeing, we talk about 30 mils for 30 days to aid in the reduction of digestive upsets, but the real value of the product is 30 mils daily right up to weaning, because it's not only helping the digestive issues early on, but we're seeing the real performance support in both digestive and rumen health. We've seen, if you go to calfhealthchampions.ie, you'll see some of our data there on long-term feeding of the product from a performance and average daily gain point of view. So even for some people, just to see it, keeping groups of calves on it right up to weaning and see the difference in calves, 30 mils daily in milk. That's it. That's management mindset and microbes tip today, video 23. See you tomorrow for video 24. I'm getting to the end of these things, and I don't think I'm ever going to do 30 videos in 30 days again, but I always say that. Happy, safe farming, everybody.